Today, I want to share two stories. One of courage, which meant that I needed to lean into fear, and the other of uncertainty, not knowing where I'd end up and not having that attachment to the end outcome and the journey that took me through to get there. There's a common theme, and your job is to guess what that is. So if we picture back to 2004, I was 21, with a son of 11 months old, and in my first year of uni, I did finish, yes, and I lost my mum. So not just my mum, my guiding compass, my best friend, my coach, a woman that I had huge admiration for, you know, PhD, CEO, but the kindest, most wonderful soul that I could ever hope for to be a role model. We had spent the most amazing day as a family, so myself, my son, his dad, and gone to bed with a grateful heart. So one of those days where you really just sort of picture those memories and look back on very fondly. The difference with that day was, little did I know, at 2 a.m. in the morning, I would get a call to say that my mum, of 44 years old, had been taken to hospital very suddenly with an aneurysm, a blood clot in the brain. And I remember rushing to that hospital, my son in my arms, his dad by my side, and looking at her on the table, and the doctor had told us that she'll be okay, and I knew at that point that she'd gone. And it's in that moment that life changed. I'd gone from being very secure and having a support system to the world changing overnight. And then it started. Lots of judgments, you know, how are you going to survive on your own? And how are you going to be a great mum? And what comes next? And as you can imagine, at 21, it's very overwhelming. But there was something really deep inside of me that knew that no matter what judgment had come, I'd find a way. And I knew that because I'd been lucky and fortunate enough to have a great role model. But I also knew that because I wanted to be that role model for my son. And so I remember looking at a card that my mum had written for my 21st birthday, the last card I'd ever had from her, saying many things, but one of them saying, I am always so proud of you and everything in capital letters that you do. And so I lived my life, and I still do to a great extent, thinking, okay, as a compass, would this make my mother proud? And for a long time, I was driven by an element of wanting to prove that judgment and those judgments wrong. It was you're not going to finish uni. Okay, so I had to finish my Bachelor of Engineering honours because people said I couldn't. You're not going to be a great mum. Of course I'll be a great mum because all a child needs is love and affection and good guidance and role model and a multitude of other things, but there was no way that my greatest and most fulfilling job in the world would be something that I would ever compromise on. And I knew that, my mum knew that, and that's what kept me going. So if we then go back to the point of why I'm sharing this story. I'm sharing this story because not only have I not often shared this story, I feel it's really important to show that you have nothing to prove. I never did, and I know that now. And nor do you. Sometimes life circumstances create opportunities for us to really dig deep and understand what our strengths are. And sometimes we really have to lean into fear, not knowing what the outcome is. And I as a life coach, as a woman, as a person that cares, I want you to know that whatever it is, you have everything that you need within you in order to achieve that. And so, a second story, one of uncertainty and letting go of the outcome in order to just go with the journey. Picture back to 2019. I know, a world before the pandemic. Sometimes feels like it never happened. I was in a job that I absolutely loved and very fortunate and lucky to have been regarded as top talent. And I had a call from an organisation that said, we'd love to have a conversation with you. We want to scale an organisation from a very different part of the world. And we have really ambitious goals for that organisation. Will you come and join us? And I said no. It wasn't the right time. You know, I'm doing well where I am. Why would I step outside of that? But being someone that doesn't like to stay comfortable, the curiosity got the better of me, and a few months later they called me again. And I had some conversations, and you know, I had meeting after meeting, with the last meeting having 5 people in there and 3 translators, and due to be 30 minutes ended up being an hour and a half. And there was something that was really calling deep inside of me. There was something that not only piqued my interest, but spoke to my purpose. My purpose being that I am quite an entrepreneurial spirit, and I have a desire to help growth of others, growth of organisations, and this provided the opportunity to go from less than 40 people to where we are today. And that company that I had sleepless nights over and doubted myself is the company that we now know as TikTok. So we have gone from thousands to over $1 billion organisation. And had I have said no to that opportunity, had I have said no to stepping outside of my comfort zone or not really knowing where it would lead me, I wouldn't be where we are today. Now, I'm not saying that some of those judgments weren't true. And I'm not saying that some of those judgments weren't things for me to think about, you know, such as, why would you leave a comfortable job, you know? And the answer to that is because sometimes we have to take a leap of faith. And sometimes it's just about putting one foot in front of the other and knowing that you'll find a way. And I would always encourage that you step outside of all of those doubts and fear that can sometimes get in the way of our progress, because we think, what if it doesn't work out? What if I can't do it? And I would challenge you to think, what if you can? And what if you do? Now, I don't stand here saying that I have all the answers. I don't. What to some may seem like a polished exterior is often someone that questions themselves and asks the same questions and, you know, struggles to filter some of those judgments that we all know exist and can be true. But what I am saying is that you will never regret taking a leap of faith, because what you learn from that could be the greatest lesson of your life. I have a question. Did anyone guess the common theme? Interesting. Absolutely. So what many might have thought was judgment, and that this was a common theme about judgment, was actually about courage. So courage is not being put off by other people's judgments. It's hearing those judgments and doing it anyway. It's having the self-conviction and the self-belief to know that you can, and to know that your journey and your story you own. Thank you.